Today's episode dives into one of the hardest but most meaningful chapters in my softball journey. I'm joined once again by my dad and former coach as we reflect on the challenging junior year that really tested my confidence, my identity, and quite frankly, my love for the game. From striking out with bases loaded in the championship game to being benched by a coach who didn't value the right things, we share what it looked like to navigate adversity, not just as an athlete and parent, but as a family. If your young athlete is going through a tough season and if you're unsure how to support them when you can't fix it, this is a conversation for you. Welcome to Confident, Calm, and Clutch Car Ride Conversations. I'm your host, Valerie Alston, here to help athletes and parents spark meaningful dialogue about mental toughness, resilience, and confidence. Whether you're headed to practice, a game, or just running errands, this podcast is your go-to for building stronger relationships and lifelong skills, one car ride at a time. All right, let's transition. I think we've talked a little bit about learning resilience together and all that, but I'd like to specifically, I know that I had a pretty tough time my junior year with the travel ball team because you were no longer my coach. We still did all our individual stuff together at home, but thinking about learning resilience together, because that year in particular was coming off the sophomore year high school season where we lost the state tournament, part of which because I struck out at the first inning with bases loaded. So I was carrying that. And then I also had into the junior year summer a coach situation where he was just not a good person and made arbitrary decisions and brought college kids back to play and all that kind of stuff. So thinking through some of the harder times and lessons where you had to help me through some kind of like situations of not giving they were very difficult for me. Like I was really struggling. What were you seeing as that parent coach who knew me so well that told you that something different needed to be done or that you needed to step in? And then from your perspective, walk you through that process of what decisions you made as a parent.
I think the what I saw after his junior year,
Because it was the
yeah. So we
sophomores.
decided
Yeah, go ahead.
I we decided to not do the 18 gold
Bat Buster team. Yeah,
Bat Buster
we
team.
played for hot stuff.
So started out with my thought was we merged up with cruisers to go that way, and then
Right.
that didn't
Yeah.
work out. And what I saw there was, I guess it's just not, it's kind of like where do I fit, not knowing where I am, what's going on here. But where it showed up for me was in your high school season, early on in the season, things that you normally did with utter confidence and just a little bit of a swagger wasn't there. It was tentative and way obviously the pitching at the high school level was not anywhere near as good
What
as
I was used to.
used
Yeah.
to. And it was like, okay, you can have a bad day, but you can't have a bad month. It's just something's going on because the physical talent's there.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, that was a time when we had things going on at work and stuff. So there was reasons why I chose not to coach that year. But when I saw that, just a tentativeness in your play, which was not normal, I started looking at what's going on and I would watch in more detail, and your preparation slacked off some, and just your attention focused. So we talked a little bit, I don't know if you remember, and I think that end of year game with the at the state championship where you guys ended up losing the game
Yeah.
was still weighing on you. You tend to try to carry that burden for everybody on that. And I think it was just weighing you down. And I felt as a dad, I didn't know how to fix that. I Other than being supportive and all that. But after a month, I'm saying, okay,
What I'm doing is not working
that's
anymore.
not working.
Yeah.
So we talked about it, and that's when we sent you. I said, hey, let's go see this guy
Yeah.
that is a sports psychologist, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, then I had to be willing to back out of that because that's a personal decision with you and him. But when I knew it had worked was when you got into the playoffs at school because you were just flooping around. Your batting was mediocre through the first two-thirds of the season, but then when it started to matter, all of a sudden you started driving the ball again and knocking in the runs and doing that kind of stuff. So that was when I knew that it that process, whatever, was working, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
we were always able to talk about it too, but I guess you had to feel like you had somebody else you could talk to that wasn't us and have that be private. So I didn't tell you what did he tell you to do. I just,
Yeah.
what do you need me to do to support you for that? And going out to the travel ball was difficult because they did nothing like
What I
we
was used to. Yeah. Where you earned
nothing
your way on the
nothing
field because
organized. Their pregame was
I had
after.
earned my way onto the field and then they just brought
Yeah,
random
yeah.
people in and it was, oh,
And then yeah,
horrible.
then they yeah, there was
Coaches.
nothing about that that was anything that we've been talking about. It was just not very well run.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, we're at this thing, we're stuck, and it's clear that they are not going to do what would be the right thing. So I remember,
I was struggling because I think I remember it very distinctly. I had a tournament, a Colorado tournament, and I struck out like 9 at-bats in a row, which is not me. And just was miserable. Yeah.
oh yeah, it was definitely a mentally thing here.
Yeah.
So I think what was interesting then is we
We
came
went out to a
from,
park by ourselves because you traveled on that trip. Yeah.
yeah, that was at
We're
Michigan
coaching.
actually. I think it was Michigan because I remember Hutch was there watching.
No, because that was the maybe I don't know, but
It was
I
it
thought it was Colorado, but
it was somewhere.
we had visited Michigan. You and I had gone there, and then we flew to the tournament and
Yeah, it was anyway. There were
something. Long
it
story
was
short.
it was so what it came down to for me is this, okay? You can only control what you can control, right? Your talent, your preparation, you can do that. If the coach says to you, I don't give a shit, I'm not going to let you play, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So my thinking at the time, and I don't know why I think this, I just always did, is that the coaches are looking at you as a player, as a person, as a teammate.
Yeah, the college coaches at this point is what we're
College
talking
coaches are looking
about.
at you to say, is this a kind of a person that has the toughness and resilience to be a college athlete? So I said, look, if what looks like is going to happen is this guy's going to bring these college players back and you're going to be sitting watching the final tournament where all the coaches are there watching all the players, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to watch you, then make them watch you be doing something good. So we decided as a tandem, you're
Yep.
going to be the first one out of the dugout to cheer. You're going to be the first, you're going to be picking up all the bats. You're going to be warming up the pitcher. You're going to be doing whatever that team needs to be done. You're going to be doing it with enthusiasm. You're going to be the loudest cheerer on the bench. When they say it's time to pinch hit, you're going to be out there with your tee doing warm
Get
ups. You're going to
ready.
be ready
Yeah.
to go. You're going to be like, if you're going to just be a bench teammate, then be the best damn bench teammate you can be, right?
In the world. Yeah.
Because that's what's important. And so when you go through the national tournament where you've normally played every game and been a key player on a team to being there, getting, I don't know, you get 4 or 5 pinch hits or something.
Yeah, I think I only played and I maybe played in the outfield one game. Yeah, it was
And that was where I think, yeah, I looked at that and I said, look, if that's what's going to be the situation, then be it enthusiastically, be really good at it. And then it was rewarding when, as we were walking off the field after that last game, that like 5 or 6 college coaches came up and said, I really liked the way you were really
yeah.
behaving.
Yeah. Because they'd seen me play the previous year. They knew I had
Yeah. They were
explosive
like, I don't know,
talent.
why
Yeah.
is that? Why aren't you playing like that? And so it's, you're locked in. You can't quit the team because you're signed and you can't go anywhere else. So it's then be as good a bench person as you can be and help everybody out and do whatever and be enthusiastic and be supportive. It's not your teammate's fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was interesting to see that philosophy that we had turned out to be true. And the coaches said, that was really impressive. That
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
that was pretty nice. And so it reaffirmed that our belief in doing things the right way,
Was
behaving, having your values, using your process, control what you can control,
yeah.
can't deal with what you can't, and do it with a
That's
smile
right.
and enthusiasm makes a big difference. And what we find as a business person and hiring employees is the same thing. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're a pain in the butt, I don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
And if you're a person that works hard and supportive and is always upbeat and always enthusiastic and always encouraging others and always invigorating others with your presence, then you're gonna be okay. You're gonna have a good life.
Yeah.
And that was just not true on they
That
chose to
team. Yeah.
operate their team a different way. It's not the way.
Yeah, that was a wake up call too. I think because I
Yeah.
had up until that point, really from 10 to that year, I had always been coached by you in travel ball. And
Yeah.
that was where some learning lessons of now I got to go deal with new coaches and different styles. There are a lot of lessons learned that
Yeah, it is. But that's life, right?
yeah, yeah. Before we dive into today's discussion prompts, I want to kindly ask you that if you are enjoying this podcast, I would be ever so grateful if you could leave a 5-star review. Your feedback helps the podcast show up in more people's searches, and the more people, young families with young athletes who are having these conversations, the more likely we're going to have some healthy youth sports participation out there. All right, y'all. So, a quick reminder of the rules. There are no wrong answers. Please take turns listening and talking. Try to minimize your distractions. And remember that you can pause the episode in between each individual question, or you can listen to all the questions and just discuss whatever your heart desires. Okay? All right. So, we had a little bit of a shorter episode today. So, I've got a few extra questions for you. So, our first question. Have you ever had a coach or situation that made you question your confidence or love for your sport? How did you respond? Or how could you respond if it is happening to you currently or if it happens again? Question two. When things feel unfair, like you're losing your spot or you're dealing with a tough coaching decision, what are some things that you can still control? We acknowledge that, especially as a youth sport participant, you don't have a ton of control over much other than yourself. So we really want you to think about even when things aren't going your way, what can you do to stay focused on the right things? Question three. What does it mean to be a great teammate, even when you're not the one on the field or the court or wherever it is that you play? Why do you think college coaches care about that? All right, question four. How do you want your parents to support you when you're struggling in sports? What helps? What doesn't help? What is something that they can do to help you? Because they're part of your support system. All right. They don't want to just see you flounder, but they also don't want to make things harder. Okay. So talk about that. What do you think might help? Now, parents, I've got a couple specific questions for you too, surrounded around this. And so, what I'd like you to do is be willing to be hopefully vulnerable and honest with your kiddo. Okay, so here is your two questions, parents. What is the hardest part for you when you see your child struggling in their sport? Is it the fear of lost potential, watching their confidence dip, or not knowing how to help, or anything else? Like what's hard for you as the parent to watch your kiddo struggle? And again, maybe the reverse question is what do you want from your kiddo when they're struggling? Like what do you want them to tell you? Just talk about that. And specifically, a follow-up question, how do you typically respond in these moments? And what messages do you want or hope that your child receives from you when you do get involved when they're struggling? All right, y'all, that was quite a few questions, but I hope hopefully one or two of those really lead to some good dialogue and conversation in that car ride. So let's remember to just keep talking, keep the lines of communication open, and let's make those car rides count. Thank you for joining me on Confident, Calm, and Clutch Car Ride Conversations. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with at least one other coach or parent in your life that you think would benefit from this conversation. If you are looking for more weekly tips, mindset shifts, and conversations that will help you and your athletes stay confident, calm, and clutch no matter what's going on, please consider joining my newsletter at www.confidentcalmclutch.com/newsletter. And if you have any suggestions for new topics or areas that you would like help with talking related to mental toughness, resilience, confidence, there is a link in the show notes that you could send me a message, right? There's a form that you can fill out that'll send me some ideas that you have. You can always DM me at Alston Coaching on Facebook or Instagram as well. And I look forward to hearing from you and continuing these conversations as we go. I hope you have a great day.